Welcome to Absolute Counter, Episode 7.
Wheaties, Tootsie Pops, and M&M's in Lunar?
Hey guys, this is Magus.
And this is Darkscream.
Oh boy, Episode 7 already, huh?
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to keep this up for long.
Well, no, well, you know what? What was it? Blast Podcasting is on Episode 13, I think. We did Episode 13 last, and then we're going to hit... So, yeah, we'll probably... In a year, we'll probably be here doing this very podcast, and I'll still be doing Blast Podcasting.
Sweet. I just got to find out what to do from this point forward because August, apparently you can't do Hangout live streams. YouTube's doing some more updating bullshit. So we'll just have to, I'll figure it out when the time comes.
Well, you have access to my other podcast partner who is an expert in such things, so.
Yeah, that's good. I'm pretty sure he's preparing for the same thing too.
He records it differently. I know I'm getting some backstage behind the scenes shit for Blast Podcasting, but I think he does something differently though.
Really? What does he do?
He uses Audacity or something.
Yeah, I tried to. I am tampering with Audacity, but I haven't really completely got the hang of it.
Hey, you got access to him, Xander.
Yeah, I do.
We will talk to Xander after this podcast.
All right.
But anyway, I'm a little annoyed about something else though.
What's that?
Let's talk about our Switch for a second. You love your Switch, right?
I do.
I love my Switch. But there's a little problem with the Joy-Cons.
Yes, there is.
Drift. I have bought contact cleaners, temporarily fixed the problem. I have done airing out the motherfucker. I just don't have the money to buy another pair because they're like $80. But drifting happens.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, the Joy-Con, specifically the left one, it would kind of wear, or there would be some dust that would get under the Joy-Con, and as a result, the thing will drift on its own. It will move on its own, even though you're not moving the stick, and that might not be a big deal, but it actually does fuck with a lot of aiming and movement and all that stuff. I had my JoyCon Drift like a couple months ago, when I was playing Breath of the Wild, and I was aiming my bow, and then I noticed Link would just freaking walk off on his own. And I was like, why is he doing that? And then I've been checking it with the other games, and then I went to the settings, and then when you can go check the control settings, you could see the little dot just move. And it turns out, I look it up online a little bit, I see it on Twitter, it's not a rare problem. This is common, and like I said, the only way to one of the ways to like at least temp fix it is to just use contact clear, which I haven't used. Instead, I got me a second pair of Joy-Cons because I always thought I needed them that way, just in case of the off chance I have 4 players, we will have something to play Smash on. But son of a bitch, Nintendo!
I don't think I'm going to be buying any games, so I might buy another pair because I do got Fire Emblem coming out this week. But yeah, you are right. So, you do got Fire Emblem. You're going to play that?
Yeah, that was the game I decided to sell in to purchase this month. Because I've never played a Fire Emblem game before, and this will be my first.
Real quick on that, you've heard the playtime, right?
200 hours. I did the math. That's like roughly 60 hours per campaign if they split it up evenly.
80 hours.
Oh, 80 hours, my bad. Okay, still.
Over 200 hours of gameplay.
That's
good. Hey, I've been playing Breath of the Wild myself, and I have 130 hours on that one, so there you go. And
I only have 80 hours. The most hours I've put into on my Switch now is fitness boxing because I'm still exercising.
Well, that's a good thing. How many hours?
It's over 100.
See, that's 100 hours of exercising. That's more. See, I'm sad because the games that I have the most time in don't involve exercising. They're Breath of the Wild, fucking Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, and Smash Brothers.
Oh, man, those are the games I also put a lot of time into as well.
And I have over 100 hours on each of those.
The thing is, and of course, Kotaku makes an article, finally calls out this issue. And then
hold on a second.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's say we are not fans of Kotaku. We think they're generally dumb.
No, we're not, but they can be right when they can be right.
Yep, you got it. Yep, you got to call a spade a spade.
And Nintendo addresses this not very well. I forgot what they said specifically, but it was pretty much a non-answer. They're like,
Yeah.
we're working hard to create the best products, and I believe them. But one of the things I want to hear, I heard we're getting a new model Switch this year, and it's going to apparently improve the battery life and stuff. I wanted to hear if there was going to be any more new model Joy-Cons that would fix this drifting issues.
Well, hold on a second real quick. And I agree. The new Lite, remember, the new Switch Lite, you cannot remove those controllers. Fortunately, you can with this. So, I mean, it's not a total loss, right?
Right.
It's still pricey, but it's not a total loss. With the Switch Lite, if they have drift issues, get my point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because that's like one of the biggest advantages of the Switch is that when your controller breaks, you don't have to pull apart the entire console. You could just fix the controller or just get new pairs. You can't do that for the Vita. You can't do that for the Game Boy.
Look,
the Switch Lite, man, goddamn.
We're in a situation, and it's not as dire as this one was, but it is pretty dire, and I think there needs to be a similar resolution because as much as I don't like, I'm not a Microsoft fan, and you're not either. But in the 360 days, it took them a while, albeit it took them a while, but they did address the Red Ring of Death.
Yeah, they did.
And the way they did it was superb.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen is the Red Ring of Death would happen. You would send it in. They would fix it. You would get another 3 years. If the Red Ring happened again, you get it fixed. You get another 3 years. Microsoft, yes, it did. I think this was instituted maybe 2008, 2009.
Yeah, I think that was around the time when my Xbox Red Ringed the second time, and I didn't have to pay much for it or anything at all.
No, you didn't have to pay. They just send you a shipping label and you sent it in. But in the end, it worked out. I think, and look, I'm not a guy who says me and you are not one of these evil corporation guys, right? Because every corporate's greedy. That's a fact. Get over it. Yeah. Get over it. Yeah, all corporations are greedy. Get over it. That's kind of like saying, yeah, you eat. Complaining about someone who eats. There's no point. Anyway,
all right.
What I'm saying is Nintendo needs to address this issue in a similar way to the Red Ring of Death. And I think they will, because if you look at the Kotaku article, it's spreading that there's more of a call for it. I think Nintendo will have to address this issue. And guys like you and I may be able to send in our Joy-Cons and get new ones or get them repaired. Agreed.
And that's pretty much the best case scenario for this situation.
And here's the thing about Nintendo, I will say, too. Nintendo, I rarely have issues with their stuff. I do. I rarely have issues. Is that the case with you?
Yeah, for me it is.
So even with something experimental like the Wiimotes, they never had issues like this drift. On this level. Mind you, I've had controllers that have had drift on other consoles, but that's after like 7 years. You know what I mean, Darkscream?
Yeah.
So what do you think? What's your whole take on this?
I just want to see them make better versions instead of something that will get defective. Because my JoyCon Drift kicked in my case, like only 10 or 11 months, almost a year, less than a year than than when I picked up the Switch.
When did you pick up a Switch? It was a little after I did, right?
Yeah, I picked it up in May during my birthday to treat myself.
May of 2018. I picked mine up during tax time in February.
Yeah.
Mine started to kick in around December.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Mine kicked in around about the end of March.
Yeah.
For some stories, some people say it kicked in sooner.
Yeah, I've heard stories like that. And you look at the Kotaku article, that's the staff at like a magazine type environment. They're having issues with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. By the way, you kind of cut out at the beginning of what you just said.
Oh, I'll just re-say it. So Kotaku's like has a staff, and if you read the article, the staff is having issues. That's not. And some guy tried to argue, well, I took care of mine and mine never had it. No, it's not one of those fucking cases. It's a case where it's happening to too many people. That's not just an isolated thing where some people who treat it like shit, and I'm sure there are those, and they're getting the drip because they treated it like shit. Okay, you get my point, Darkstream?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so it's too widespread. Nintendo needs to do something about it.
I got no news stories there of interest other than that Super Robot Wars X and V, which were the games that came out before T, are making Switch ports. So that's awesome.
Are they coming to the States?
Probably not. You have to import it, but it is English translated. So if you're willing to go that extra mile, and I say go for it. I believe, God, I think it's X that's the one that has Nadia's Secret Blue Water.
I guess it's PlayAsia then.
Yeah, PlayAsia. I've used their website a couple times for their imports. That's how I got Gundam Breaker 3. And Legend Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3 got delayed to a month.
I got something to say on that. I'm loving that series. I kind of took a break from the second one because I don't want to burn myself out because, I've been consecutively playing them.
Mm-hmm.
And we will talk about the second game once I finish it, once we get there, which will be before October. I was intending before September. But I will say this. I am glad they delayed it, and I'll tell you why, Darkstream.
Right. What's that?
I sold my Dragon Quest XI to get Fire Emblem, right? But I have an ulterior motive as to why I did that. Because I hardly touched Dragon Quest XI. And we have the probably more feature-packed Switch version.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the one I'm waiting on.
Exactly. So for me, we have that game and we have Zelda coming out in September. Okay. That month has a few other things that I'm interested in as well, but Trails was always going to be number one. That gives me September to pick up those two games. And other than maybe Luigi's Mansion in October, I don't think I'll be picking up anything else but Trails because that's my number one priority. So I am glad they did delay it.
All right. I'm actually not upset about the delay myself. I can patiently wait. If they delayed it to, clean up the game and make sure it's not a bugged up mess, because NISA has like a very nasty localization reputation from what I've seen. So I don't want them to fuck this game up royally, obviously. Then that's fine for me. I can wait. In the meantime, I'll just play something else because, again, we just have like these bunch of other games that are coming out, and I haven't even bought them all. Still don't have Mario Maker 2. Still don't have Sam Show. Yeah. It's kind of fucking hectic, so I'm all for it.
I don't have Judgment. Maybe I'll buy Judgment in August because I know Astral Chain is coming out, but I don't know about that.
All right, so have you played or done anything in the past couple of weeks of note? Because I have.
Okay, I've been playing Breath of the Wild, and I've been tackling the DLC. Now, not the Champions Ballad, but I've been going on the EXX treasures, and I've been getting like Majora's Mask and shit like that. And that's been a lot of fun. And along my way, what's cool about that game is while I've been searching for those, I've been discovering things that I don't intend to discover, like extra shines and Korok seeds. And I've completely found the town that I completely never found on the southeast corner of the fucking map.
That's the beauty of the game. It's just everything's a surprise every time you play that game. I haven't even finished the main campaign yet because I'm just too busy exploring.
And I found this guy that he buys monster parts from you.
What does he do for him?
He gives you masks that are like the monsters.
Cool.
Yeah. And I even found one of the coolest things was I was getting the Phantom armor. Now, the Phantom armor is based off of the Phantom Knight from Wind Waker. And one of the locations that I had to go to was with a Lionel, and it was a silver Lionel. Now, as you know, those monsters like the Taluses and the Lionels, they have different types, and some are harder than the others. That silver Lionel was a motherfucker. But I kicked his ass.
That's good.
And I got his bow, which was really nice. It'll break, but it'll last me. So there you go.
All right. For me, this week, when it comes to games, I just went back to playing Digimon Hacker's Memory, and before we started recording, I played a little bit of Gundam Breaker 3 just to build me a new Gunpla and upgrade a little bit. But the past week or so has been dedicated to me watching a whole lot of Gundam. I finished Gundam X, and the review is actually uploaded. I uploaded today before we started recording. But also, while I was scripting that review, I finished watching Zeta Gundam. Yeah, all 50 episodes.
Good times?
For me, not for the characters of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it shit hits the fan pretty hard once Haman Khan gets introduced. Okay, that's when all the bad things happen.
Zeta Gundam, I know, is considered one of the best series.
Yeah.
But it's also, isn't it a sequel to the original series?
Yes, it takes place like 7 or 8 years after the events of 0079, which is how long it took to make this show.
And then Char's Counterattack is a follow-up to Zeta Gundam.
Yes, and that which is what I also watched, but still on Zeta Gundam. It's interesting because Zeta Gundam, the Federation are the bad guys. See, what happened is, and it gets more explained in 0083 Stardust Memory, they've created this little offshoot faction called the Titans, who are basically, they're in Federation uniforms, but they're red and black, and they like to use Zeon-esque mobile suits like the Hyzaks. If you Google a Hyzak, it looks very similar to a Zaku. But they're basically just asshole thugs that are trying to flush down any like Zeon remnants and colony separatists, and they will do whatever it takes. They will gas them. They will shoot colony lasers. They're fucking thugs, and they have some hardcore monsters on their side. So the good guys are actually the Anti-Earth Union Group, AEUG, or AUG for short. And Char, under the disguise of Quattro Brigida, is part of that team, as well as eventually Captain Bright Noah from the original show. And the main character is Camille Badan, who's kind of like an apprentice to Char. Didn't really like him at first. He's way too emotional and impulsive. He does get better later on, and I kind of felt bad for him towards the end a little bit. But like I said, show gets dark. There's a fucking body.
Tomino?
Yo, yes.
Okay.
This is like Tomino at his second most depressed, maybe. Because I heard
Ideon's worse?
I haven't seen the rest of Ideon. I've heard about it. I heard what's bad. But it sounds like Victory Gundam is 10 times worse.
And he did Victory Gundam?
Yes, he did. He did it in like an attempt to like destroy Gundam or some shit because Sunrise was losing control and rights from Bandai when they bought it out or something.
And then they created a bunch of parallel universes.
Yep. But I know I was supposed to watch Double Zeta next, but I decided to skip that for 2 reasons. Reason 1, I heard it was awful.
Okay.
I heard it was like tonally the opposite of Zeta Gundam, but it's like really, really bad. It gets better later on, but it's really bad. Plus, it's like 49 more episodes. I wanted to finish it before I go to a convention this weekend. And second reason, Char's not in it. I've been watching it in like the chronological order of the Char continuity. So I started with Origin, then I watched the film compilations of the original show, then Zeta Gundam. So I decided to go straight to Char's Counterattack. Now, Char's Counterattack, I really like the movie. I love the animation, love some of the mobile suit designs. All of the Char versus Amuro stuff is great.
Okay.
But there's this one fucking character, well, 2 really. One of them doesn't get a whole lot of focus, but the other one does, that really just bogs the whole thing down. There's this blue-haired teenage bitch by the name of Quest Pariah. And she is like the worst character ever.
Okay. Most annoying anime characters, top 3, go.
Oh man, fuck. Narusagawa. Shit, man, you're making me pull from all other things. Yeah, she might be in top 3.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
She is ruining what is otherwise a great movie. She was like hitting on almost every male character. She has really warped viewpoints that side with Char. And here's the funny thing about Char's characterization. From the chronological order, from origin to counterattack, he kind of started off as like an anti-hero, then he became an anti-villain, then he became a full-blown hero. And then in Char's counterattack, he's just a full-blown villain who just fucking had it up to here with the people of Earth, and he wants to chuck an asteroid and cause nuclear winter on that whole planet. So he's a full-blown bad guy. I acknowledge that.
Okay.
But she wanted to side with him, and she wanted his dick so bad. She was a terrible character, and the big payoff is that she just fucking gets killed by a missile anyways. Sorry for the spoilers, but I really just did not like this character at all. I wish there was a cut of the film that just takes her out entirely.
Darkstream, you're sexist because you don't like a female character. You better watch it.
There are great female characters in Gundam. Okay,
I know. I'm just. We
I know.
When we remember we did our rant on what was it? Macross? No, not Macross. Fucking Robotech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just gotta do a little bit of a follow up, making fun of the woke on there or the soy boys.
I don't think feminists would like her because she is like ogling at almost every male dude she sees.
But that's the thing, dude. They'll not like the character, but they don't want you to dislike the character. If that makes sense.
I don't fucking care, dude. I mean, I don't know what the general consensus of Char's counterattack is, but I fucking hate that character.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've never seen it. You got me wanting to watch more Gundam.
It's a great series. I've been looking for like a new sci-fi space opera to fill the hole because fuck Star Wars at this point.
Yeah.
It's been doing that just fine for me. I mean, Gundam X, I know I posted a review of it, but I actually genuinely really did like the show. And tonally, it's the opposite of Zeta Gundam. Even though it's a post-apocalyptic setting, the body count in that show isn't really that high. Well, there was a group of people that did die, but there were a bunch of minor characters that were introduced for less than an episode. But like all the main characters that you know of since the beginning of the show, they're fine. They're going to be fine.
All right. I got something I watched. I won't talk much about it because I did a whole podcast episode about it with Xander. But you should really, if you haven't, check out Batman Ninja Turtles.
I really want to because I like Batman. I like the Ninja Turtles. Of course, I want to see those two crossover.
And it's pretty good. Xander and I had one quibble with it. Well, maybe more so Xander. I don't remember. But yeah, watch it and then listen to the show because you don't want spoilers because we spoil the fuck out of it.
All right.
But one thing, though, have you read the IDW comic?
I've read an issue that focused on Crane, and I've read an issue that focused on Bebop and Rocksteady because I want to see what they did to those characters. You
need to read that fucking series.
I've heard great things about it.
It's one of the best comics on the market.
Nice.
And Ninja Turtles. It's so. Here's the thing. This is what I said in the podcast because I really want to talk about working designs, but it elevates. It does what the He-Man DC did with the Great He-Man comic. It elevates that material from like G-rated to PG-13.
That's good. Now, when it comes to what I'm going to watch next in terms of Gundam/anime, it's up in the air. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but and I'm not going to announce what I'm going to review before I watch the show because obviously I have a very lazy work ethic. So if I'm like over halfway done with the show and I'm intent on talking about it afterwards, I'm just going to make an announcement on Twitter right there because
your work ethic is better than mine, though.
All right.
Yeah.
But that's all I got. And we can move on to our topic. I'm going to let you have the floor with this one because you grew up more with these games than I have.
Working designs. Yes. So working designs, they are more important to the gaming industry than people give them credit for. They really are. You know that back in E3 they announced Final Fantasy VII Remake Special Ultra Edition with CDs and cloud toys and all that, right?
Right.
And that's not something new. That's been going on really more rampantly, I would say, since the last gen. It happened a little bit in 6th gen, but it happened more so in 7th. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I think, was it Halo 2 or Halo 3 that had the Master Chief helmet?
Yeah, one of them. I think it was Halo 3.
It might have been 3, yeah. So yeah, that was from last gen.
But here's my thing. You go back 2 more gens. Let's go to, is it 5th gen? Yeah, 5th gen. Go back to 5th gen. PS1, N64, probably one of my favorite gens. This one's giving it a run for its money. Anyway, you go back to 5th gen and you look at it. Games are just released with a manual, which that's got a lost art too. But working designs, back about 20 years, back in May of 1999, I went and I picked up Lunar, right? Never saw anything like Lunar. Perfect. Lunar complete. Silver Star Story complete. Never saw anything like that I had ever purchased or ever got. It came with a book. It came with a cloth map. It came with a few other things that I don't recall. And it also came with a making of and soundtrack CD. And the game, of course, obviously. Never saw anything like that. It was working designs, I honestly believe, as far as I know. And if anyone thinks I'm wrong, you can tell me I'm wrong and show me that, someone did this. But working designs created the collector's edition.
Yes, and they are kind of also responsible for companies like Atlas, Exceed, and a bunch of other publishing companies that like to license the weirder, more obscure games that major companies wouldn't touch with a 3-foot pole. Most JRPGs and a bunch of the weird, quirky games. They were the pioneers of doing stuff like that.
They also do something that those companies still do. Trivia question: what is that?
What do they do that what have they done that they did have what they have? What was the question again?
What do they also do that Working Designs did? They still do this. Those companies you mentioned.
I did mention they localize games.
Right. Okay, I'll tell you what they do. And this, mind you, it is a bit different. So some people could call me wrong on this, but we'll limit it to this thing. They do limited runs of physical copies of their games. And they still do it. It's hard now. It's hard to find a physical copy of Trails of Cold Steel 1 on PS4 for some people. Did you know that?
No, I need to check something. But that sucks.
Yeah. So they still do what these companies did. So that's kind of my point. They kind of came up with these modern concepts that are still carried on today. Even though some of it's niche, some of it is mainstream. So that's how important Working Designs is to the game industry. Wouldn't you agree, Darkscream?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So now, what's your personal history with them? Because mine's a little long.
I don't have one, but I have a friend who does. So a couple months ago, when I was watching this documentary series on YouTube called Working Designs and Overlooked Legacy, and I believe the YouTube channel is called Toy Bounty Hunters. I'm going to try to put their playlist in the link below so you guys can take a look at yourselves if you haven't seen it already after you listen to this podcast. I have a friend who is pretty much a modern PC gamer, but he was a super old school console gamer up until PlayStation 2 and Xbox. And he still has like a lot of Working Designs games, and they're limited collector's editions and everything. He has both Lunars for the PlayStation. He has the Arc the Lag collection. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what else he has, but he also has that Galleon finger fist puppet thing.
Oh, Galleon. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the funniest looking things I've seen. And we watched behind the scenes videos on all of those games we saw. And I was pretty much fascinated with the way Victor Ireland and his team, worked on these games. And I do have some things to say because they are a mixed bag on the modern localization community. They have some pros, but they also have some weird ass cons, depending on your point of view. But I still respect them for what they've at least done for the past.
Well, look at it. Their history stretches back all the way, probably before this, if I recall, TG16 CD.
TurboGrafx 16, yeah. I believe their first game was Cosmic Fantasy 2, or the first game for them to get noticed.
That was one of them. No, Cosmic Fantasy 2 came out in 92 here in the States. I'm thinking more along the lines of Exile.
I've heard that game was been hard as hell.
No, I've been playing some of these games, just to let you know. Through my PC. I don't give a fuck. I'm playing it that way. But I have been playing some of these games in preparation of it. And it's very interesting because one of the things they also were known for is voice acting. They got voice actors. They had their own regular group of voice actors. If you watch the making of that you mentioned earlier of some of those games, Darkscream, they will mention they have reused these voice actors in all of their games.
Yeah, I saw some clips of Cosmic Fantasy 2 on the voice acting. Now, obviously, it's going to be dated in a lot of places. It's not going to hold up to most modern voice acting.
Yeah,
but I just remember this one character, and he had the most stereotypical French accent ever. Even though he looks like a Pashonian, he sounds like a 45-year-old man with a French accent. I couldn't keep it together after hearing that. It was.
And that's exactly the problem that some people have.
Yeah.
Design translations.
Here's the thing I found out. When they were localized the game, of course they were going to change some things. They might change some jokes. And they actually explained this in one of their documentaries. Hey, man, certain puns aren't going to make sense when you localize it in English. And that because that's how localization works. You not just translate it, but you make it to where, okay, how does it make sense for English-speaking worlds? That being said, they have a very juvenile sense of humor. I remember watching the Lunar documentary, and they had this one character, this old man researcher dude, who's like secluded. He's by himself, and I think it was Victor Ireland who was bringing this up, and it's like, I wonder why he's by himself. And anyone with a brain would have been like, well, maybe he's one of those guys who is just so fixated on this one thing he thinks people are distractions or whatever. But no, he says, what if we give him really bad body odor? So they show an anime cutscene of him yelling at some dude, and then he farts. He just rips a smelly fart. You hear it, and I'm like, oh god, that's bad. And then another more infamous example involves a video game by the name of Vey. The Wind Fairy Sarufa, I don't know, whatever her name is. The Wind Fairy. She's now a fucking evil demon flatulent fairy now. That if you use her abilities, you get poisoned and shit. And that will actually affect you in game. It's really kind of fucking dumb.
It is, but look, I understand and I agree, it is dumb, but that's a product of its era. While we may have gotten some dumb shit, there's another thing that they did. Why do you think they did games for the TurboGrafx CD, the Sega CD, the Saturn, the PlayStation, and the PSP? Notice what company's not there.
Well, okay. Nintendo doesn't seem to be on that list.
Nope. Here's why. One, they worked with CD technology pretty much. They never really worked with cartridge. I'm checking Kadash here for the TurboGrafx, and it looks like I'm seeing if there's a CD version. I think there was just a HuCard version, but that looks like one of the few cartridge games they did.
Mm-hmm.
But they worked on CD games with voice acting. The other thing that they were known for doing is they pretty much did not cut content for adult themes in their games.
Okay, this is where I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
They have censored the game from time to time. I know there's like a character in Cosmic Fantasy that flips the bird, so they had to edit it to where she wasn't doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I believe the game was Silhouette Mirage. There was a whole lot of biblical themes in it, and I heard that got scrapped. All of it got scrapped out.
Silhouette Mirage.
Okay,
I'm looking that one up. But with Cosmic Fantasy 2, though, you know what's interesting is, I know what scene you're talking about with the flipping the bird.
Yeah.
That was cut out. But you know what was not cut out? The shower scene.
Huh. That's weird.
Let's say this way. they were more in tune with sexuality and things like that, as opposed to what other companies. Like, would you see a shower scene in a Nintendo game? Probably not.
No.
As for Silhouette Mirage, hold on. This is what the English language PlayStation version. This is about Silhouette Mirage, released by Working Designs, was criticized due to the alterations being detrimental to gameplay, making it less frantic and more difficult.
That was going to be the second criticism I was going to bring up, but if there's more, continue on.
Thereby reducing the natural flow in the original. However, despite these criticisms, the PlayStation release received better review scores than the Saturn release. The Saturn release, which was done by someone else, because, and I'll explain why that Saturn version was done by someone else. It was done by someone else. The biblical themes were cut down in the Saturn version, not in the working. Now I can tell you why someone else did. You know this, right?
Actually, no, I don't know. I don't think I know. I don't think it was brought up in the documentary, and I don't think my friend has a copy of Silhouette Mirage. So,
but you know why? In the documentary, it states why someone else did the Saturn version. They didn't do the Saturn version.
Why? Why didn't they do the Saturn version? Oh, wait, because okay, now I remember. It's because
Victor Eilerland hated Bernie Stoller.
Bernie Stoller, who, let's be honest, the way he's been described, which might be a biased viewpoint from Ireland and his supporters himself, guys who would listen to this podcast as well as you and I would just fucking boo at that name, because apparently Bernie Stoller hates JRPGs, doesn't like 2D sprites. He basically doesn't like some of that dumb weeb shit we're into. Well, and he also had some strict 5-star policies and other bullshit. This, of course, caused Ireland and Working Designs crew to jump ship to the PlayStation.
Well, here's the thing. Bernie Stoller in the early life, look at the early life of the PlayStation, right?
Right. This is like at V. Russo, by the way. This relationship.
Oh, yeah, it's the video game equivalent of that. Although I don't think one wants to piss on the other's grave, as far as I know. Maybe they do. Anyway, Bernie Stoller was with Sony for the first year or so, first couple years. If you look at the PlayStation, there wasn't very many JRPGs. Part of the reason I remember him leaving PlayStation was because of the success of Final Fantasy VII, from what I remember.
Eat shit.
Yeah. So he jumped ship to Sega, and Working Designs did bring over some Saturn games that we wouldn't have got. Like, I'll go over the list. Couple of those were Albert Odyssey, Dragon Force, Iron Storm, Magic Knight Rayearth.
About Magic Knight Rayearth. Apparently, that game took 3 years after the initial Japanese release, because another criticism is that they cared so much about their games, they had a very strict OCD perfectionist attitude. So they would just work on these games until people would eventually stop caring, maybe.
Games got delayed badly, and I'll tell you a personal experience with that later in a bit.
So after Sega Ages?
A Shining Wisdom, and then they moved on. And their first game for the PlayStation was Alundra that they brought over.
All right.
Now, my personal story with their infamous delays was with Silver Star Story Complete. I had really just gotten into JRPGs, and I saw advertisements for Silver Star Story Complete as early as January of 98, okay? And they kept saying it's coming in spring. And the way that they did advertisements well, that poster, not that poster, but those advertisements, I had never played Lunar on Sega CD, mind you, right?
Right.
But I was really into JRPGs, and those advertisements made me salivate over this game. Okay?
Back when you could look at a magazine and just fucking ogle it like a Playboy ad.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Exactly.
My friend probably still has that magazine.
Well, there was a bunch of them because they kept advertising it. And it would say Spring 98.
Like,
then it would say Fall 98.
I know in his bedroom wall, he actually has the advertisement for Lunar 2 with the female main lead. And I believe the tagline was like Hope Springs Eternal or something like that.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good game. But anyway, it would say Spring 98, right? You
Right.
would be looking at this in May, spring 98, June, spring 98. What the fuck? In June of 98. And then it would go on to, and then finally would say fall 98, fall. And it would just keep going on. The game didn't come out until May of 99, and I got it on release day.
Man, 99. Wow, that late.
Yeah, came out May of
Holy
99.
shit. I
Came
thought
out.
It came out sooner than that.
Nope, came out
That's
May
like
of 99.
months before the Dreamcast released.
Yep. And what's funny about that is that game, there were 3 games that defined that summer 20 years ago for me. That was that game, Street Fighter Alpha 3, and Star Ocean Second Story.
Okay.
So that game's pretty important to me.
Okay, I'm not sure if it was this one or Lunar 2, but wasn't because of the delays that they actually felt so bad that they actually released demo discs to people for those who pre-ordered the game. I'm not sure if it was one of the Lunar games or something else, but I noticed that if you played the demo disc, it's like the first hour or so of the game.
Well, the Lunar Silver Star Story Complete was not an hour. It was a 6-hour demo.
Oh, wow, that's 6... Shit. Anyways, that's a lot.
But what was interesting, I never got that demo, surprisingly.
But here's the thing. I know they did that as an apology. And what's interesting, because this is what JRPGs do nowadays with their demos. You save it, and you get the full game, and you can continue where you left off.
Yeah. That was ahead of its time. You could save in the demo. In fact, I had a friend who got like 2 or 3 hours into the demo, never completed it. The game came out, and he continued where he was off in the demo.
Good.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, I mean, let's be honest, they were really ahead of their times. But again, they took forever on working on shit. They took way too long. I'm going to give you another example of that. Art the Lad Collection. You brought that up, right?
Yeah, it was actually a 4-game collection into one. And I know it was because of the Stoller shit. They wanted to bring the game as early as possible, but I think they couldn't allow them at the time. And then they were able to release it, but they were releasing like 3 mainline games and some sort of Monster Rancher-esque spinoff.
Yeah, it was 4 games in that collection. Art the Lad, the original, had come out in 95.
Right.
The collection here in the United States, by Working Designs,
I know it has to be 2000.
2002.
Ooh.
April 18th, 2002.
Months before the PS2.
Yep. No.
I take that back. It came out
a year and a half after the PS2.
Oof. I mean, better late than never, but oof.
Yeah, they brought over some interesting things. Another game that I want to talk about real quick is Elemental Gearbolt.
I don't think I've heard of that one. I'm going to Google it right now while you talk about it.
Okay, Elemental Gearbolt was a light rail arcade gun shooter.
Oh, wait, now
was an
I know.
RPG.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that was a weird genre mix.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, man, that's another thing that kind of depresses me. You might actually get re-releases of Lunar by someone else. I know I have like a PSP version of Lunar that was handled by Xseed, but it's not the same as Working Designs. Different localization team, not the same dub.
I do have some things to say. Let me say a couple things about that real quick.
But man, Elemental Gearbolt piques my fancy.
Yeah. Let me say something about that Lunar, though. It's not a bad port. It's pretty good. I actually don't mind the new dub. One cool thing is that even though they changed the lyrics of it, the opening song, they still got the same woman who sung it in the Working Designs version.
That's impressive.
That port, I also have it on my iPhone. So there you go.
But back to Gearbolt?
Yeah, back to Gearbolt, though, real quick. As far as Elemental Gearbolt goes, we wouldn't have gotten it if Working Designs had not licensed that game. Because it's so strange.
It is. Like we just described, if people know what a rail shooter is, House of the Dead, Times Crisis.
If you're listening to this show, you better know what a fucking rail shooter is. Not to be a dick. They did bring over some shmups, actually.
Yeah, it was under like a different title, Working Designs. It was under, what was it called? The Spaz something.
No, they brought it under. Yeah, they brought under Spaz, but the working design logo was still on there.
Okay.
They brought in Thunder Force 5, Perfect System, which is a port of the Saturn one. Raystorm, I believe, is another shmup,
Yep.
and that's under the Spaz. And then Ray Crisis, I believe. And then Silhouette Mirage, a game that you had mentioned earlier, that was also a shmup.
All right. I actually want to move on to another criticism of working designs in the past.
Okay.
So they don't just localize the game. They will actually go into the game files and then they would do some programming here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes it would to improve some things or add some quality of life features that's like in the original version. That's fine. But what they would like to do is that they would like to fuck with the game's rules and settings so it's twice as difficult than what it is in Japanese. And I know there's probably going to be some like hardcore soul player gamers that are probably up to that kind of challenge. I've heard Exile is actually nigh unbeatable, but I don't know if anyone's actually beaten that.
Exile Wicked Phenomenon,
Yeah.
The sequel is.
But I have more.
The one that's unbeatable.
I have more of my friend's story to share regarding Lunar and its sequel. Okay. He told me that when he played Lunar for his first playthrough, he was up to the final battle, but he saved it at a point of no return. So he couldn't like go back and level grind. So he kept getting bodied. So he got so frustrated, he started a playthrough from scratch and he maxed out everyone's level, got everyone's secret weapon. He was able to beat the game. But then Lunar 2 happened, and I think it was like the first or maybe second major boss fight. He was at like a fuck, and he's not a terrible gamer. He's a hardcore gamer who would just spend hours and hours in video games more than I have. So he's not incompetent. He's pretty skilled. He knows what he's doing.
Right.
But yeah, he just got like he just hit another fucking concrete brick wall, and you know, he hasn't played the game since, and that must have been like over 2 decades ago. And that's when I decided to look up working designs and found out, oh, they like to make the English games fucking harder. And sometimes, and to me, I think like adjusting difficulty is a much more complicated process. You can't just tweak things here and there. Video games are like made with like or so OCD thought process. You can't just, beef up the enemy's stats and then lower theirs and think everything's going to be hunky-dory. No, you're going to hit some weird snags here and there that's going to really fuck it up and make it more frustrating.
I want you to listen to this for a second. Let's go back, and this is relevant to what you just said. Let's go back to that PSP port, okay?
Okay.
Of Lunar. Not only did they add new scenes that explain a little bit more of the backstory, but they also changed the difficulty. Now, I've beaten the PSP port of Lunar, okay? I will say that. But on the other hand, I've also beaten the PS1 version. In some ways, I would rather play the PSP version because that PS1 version, I had a hell of a time. And I remember and you might remember this, when back in the day, I did a video of me playing through the first boss. And that first boss is fucking hard, right?
Right.
I had a hard time with that first boss, even in 2009. But I had beaten the game a decade prior to that, when it came out. And that was a hard fucking game. They lowered the difficulty in the PSP version. Now, here's the thing. They might have lowered it too much because I beat Lunar on PSP without dying once.
It might be possible that the game's difficulty was pretty much the same in the original Japanese PSP port. Because I don't think they lowered it when they localized it in English. Because I know XC doesn't tamper with the game stats, just translating things.
No, you're absolutely right with that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely
right. And it might have been that way. It might have been that same way with the PS1 game, or who knows, in Japan. But they must have thought, oh, this game's too easy. We got to make it challenging because our gamers are hardcore. And I'm glad and yeah, that's one of the biggest pros. They cared about their fans so much. That's how they went out of business.
And real quick, before we talk about all of that, the thing with the Lunar games, though, that's interesting is they worked with Game Arts, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Working designs, the interesting thing about Lunar was that was kind of their flagship here in the United States, Working Designs, even though they didn't make the game. But they worked with Game Arts, closely to change some of these things. So you can't fully put the full responsibility on working designs. I'm not excusing them because they probably masterminded, but Game Arts worked with them to do alterations to those two original games.
Interesting.
And that's the funny thing. You look at that, and then you look at something like Grandia and Grandia 2, and they didn't work with the people who did Grandia. I think Grandia 2 was... Grandia 1 had a shit translation because it was done by Sony directly, you know? And then Grandia 2 was done by, I think, not Eidos, fucking Ubisoft. And that had a pretty good translation. But yeah, Game Arts, they were a little bit guilty for it, so.
But
So-
yeah, here's the anything else? Because I think I know what the final thing I want to talk about. We got about 10 minutes left.
Let's talk about these last couple sets of games for the PS2. I will say one more thing. I want to go back to Turbo CD real quick. You got Exile and Exile, Wicked Phenomenon, and Cosmic Fantasy 2, correct?
Right.
We talked about those. The interesting thing about those games, specifically Exile, is because I was playing Exile recently. You know how this is something that Working Designs did not edit out. You know how you heal yourself in Exile? What kind of items you buy?
No.
You buy healing potions, but they're called cocaine, meth. Yeah, you do drugs in that game to heal yourself with no side effects, obviously. You're dying, well, let's take some coke. And
Hold
then
on a second.
one game that I want to talk about, I'll talk about this game because I'm actually going to try playing through it in more depth. We'll talk about it like in our opening segment, but Pop Full Mill, which
Yeah,
I believe, oh, go ahead.
I believe that's a Falcom title.
Yeah, I think it's the only one they did. I could be wrong, but I think it's the only Falcom game that they did. But Pop Full Mill is a lot of fun. There's like 6 different ports of that one, though.
Really? Because I can't find that game anywhere outside of the Sega CD version by Working Designs.
There's the Super Famicom version.
Oh.
And the PC Engine CD-ROM version.
Okay.
And the PC 980s. You get the point. There's several versions of it, so. But yeah, Pop Full Mill, I know we didn't talk a whole lot about it, but, you know, if I play through it, we will, right? So, I mean, you look at these last 3 games, Groundlancer Generations, which was a compilation like Arc the Lad.
Yeah, it is, and it was the last game they released before they went out of business.
They were actually, you know what's the odd thing about what they were working on when they went out of business? They were doing a Goemon game for Konami.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Goemon, or Mystical Ninja, as some people might know. It was actually kind of a big franchise in Japan, but we only got like 3 games here.
They're good games.
I know. I remember playing Mystical Ninja 64, the 3D one, and I loved it at the time.
You know what they have a vibe to, Darkstream? They have a River City Ransom vibe.
Oh, that might be the reason.
Yeah, they're not beat-em-ups. They're platformers, but they have hub cities that you could do, that you could buy like items to enhance you. You know, you eat foods and you do that, but they also have mini games, so they can. So that's why, like, whenever anyone says that fucking Shenmue was its own original thing, Shenmue kind of borrowed from Mystical Ninja and River City Ransom. Let's be honest. Yeah, that's a rant for another day. But you know how much I hate Shenmue.
I forgot why did they not get that game out? Because I know that was another nail in the coffin for them as well.
Because their delays killed them, and they were working on it, and Konami pulled the plug on it, I think.
Because I know the thing is, Groundlancer was a compilation game, but they still charged it for the price of a single game, which was like $50, and it came with a whole lot of nice shit. Great for the consumer, not very financially profitable in the long run for the producer.
The other fatal flaw was that they were still trying to focus on the consoles. Now, one of the things about last gen that you and I have talked about in the past is production costs and development costs were way high in 7th gen. The problem, one of the things it sounds like, is that Victor Ireland had passed up on the Nintendo DS. Nintendo had laxed their censorship by that time. They're probably more lax now than Sony is. But
oddly enough.
Yeah, oddly enough. But they had passed it, and they weren't focusing on that. They were not focusing on the handheld market, which I think would have benefited them.
In a way, yes, because when I was getting into games that are very similar to something that I can imagine working designs get their hands on, majority of those games I was playing before the PS4, before the Switch, was on the PS Vita.
Right.
And I was having a lot of fun with those games. I was sinking more time into that than I was on consoles. And that might have helped them out. Who knows? And they could have still released collector's editions. I mean, Xe did it all the time. I mean, I got the collector's edition of Corpse Party Blood Drive.
They still do it. They still release special editions.
I mean, but I don't know. That was kind of a mistake on their end. And it's a damn shame because most of these games, I would like to play it in like a new, more faithful form, but I also would like a Working Designs cut as a counterpart, just to compare and contrast. And those games are just going to be forever lost in the ether or emulation, which is the reason why I'm actually in favor of it, is to preserve lost things like Pop.
I agree with you on emulation 100%.
Lunar 2, I don't think that gets localized much, actually.
No, that's one that's lost in the ether.
Yeah, people tell me, oh, no, that game's actually a step better in every way over the first game.
Yeah. I will say this, though. Victor Ireland did found the company called Gaijin Works.
Yes, that's where he is now.
Yeah, I don't know what they're really doing these days, but they did a few things. One of the things that Victor Ireland did do, though, that was interesting, was that they were able to get licenses to Working Design games, and they were able, with Sony's assistance, bring it up when Sony, for the PS3, was bringing out PS1 classics. So we did get re-releases of, and I do have a few of these, we did get re-releases of Vanguard Bandits, Arc the Lad Collection, and Alundra.
That's awesome. I wish I had a PS3 at the time.
Well, do you have a Vita?
Yeah, but I don't know if their online stores work.
They're on the Vita. I have them on. Yeah, they're on the Vita. Their online store still works.
Man, like I said, I sure hope those digital versions can like make it through for the next generation something.
Yeah.
Because I would like to check these games out myself out of curiosity.
And I think Groundlancer Generations got a PS2 release. I think.
I'll have to take a look. I know Langrisser, a remake of the first two games, we talked about this before, is getting a release here. God, I wish there was an option for the much more classic art style for that game, though.
Yeah, I agree.
I prefer like the 80s and 90s anime looks over the current ones. That's just me. Sorry.
And you know what? That's why I've had a blast, and I probably will, playing like Exile and Cosmic Fantasy 2 and things like that. And even going, because I've looked at even some of the Falcom games on, I have a TurboGrafx. Fuck it. I'm emulating TurboGrafx game. Fuck off, you know? But you know what? That's why I've had a blast with those games, because they have that old anime look.
Yeah. I'm definitely in favor of that aesthetic.
You know, yeah, so Working Designs is a favorite of mine. They had their flaws. All companies do, let's be honest, right?
Right.
But they were very important. And for me, they shaped a couple of the summers of my high school years. And the summer of 99, I always look back at that summer, you know, the summer of boy bands and Star Wars The Phantom Menace. But what really elevated that summer, not any of those things, but what elevated that summer were those three games that I mentioned. Street Fighter Alpha 3, Star Ocean: The Second Story, and most importantly, Lunar.
That's good. I wish I had something else to wrap it up with. Okay, obviously, I didn't grow up with these games, but like looking at their history, watching some of the videos about them and some of the behind-the-scenes stuff was very interesting as kind of like the history buff in me. It was fun researching this stuff up, and I kind of wish I could find a way to play most of these games now in either their purest or their Working Designs form. Who knows? Maybe they'll try to cut another deal and try to release hopefully a compilation classics of TurboGrafx and Saturn and PS1 somewhere in the future.
They have that TurboGrafx Mini coming out next year.
Oh, interesting. Who knows? Maybe they could do something there. Maybe if Cosmic Fantasy 2's on, I'll pick it up.
I don't think it is. We're getting Snatcher for some reason.
Oh, well, that's not too bad, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's in Japanese, though. That's the rumor.
As long, I might take it. Well, is it still going to get English translated, or?
That's the thing we don't know.
Oh, fuck. If that's not coming over here in America, what's the point?
It is coming here in America. That's the weird thing. In Japanese, from what I understand.
Oh, well, great. Anyways, I got nothing else to add. Do you have anything else to add? We're pretty much out of time.
Yeah, I have one last thing. My first working design memory. I bought a magazine. It was called Computer and Video Games Entertainment or something like that. The reason I bought it was Krusty the Clown was on there. I was 9, mind you. Okay? Simpsons were big when they were good. So I picked it up. There was that Krusty's Fun Clown House game, whatever. And I was looking through it, and one of the advertisements struck me. And it was this weird-looking fucking dude with, like, glasses and blue hair. And he had his hand out, like, stretched out. And there was an orb, and there was a girl chained in the orb. And there was this guy with, like, a sword. And he had, like, this blue outfit on. And there was this chick, this blonde chick with, like, this long-sleeve shirt, pink short shorts, and, like, a staff. And there's a little fucking cat with like an eye in his hand, pointing towards you. And it was like so weird to me. I don't know why, but it struck me. And that was an advertisement to Cosmic E2. And even after that, working design, before I actually played their games, their advertisements, for whatever reason, I think they were one of the few ones that used the actual cover art, with the exception of Wicked Phenomenon, which I won't even get into. But for the most part, they were one of the first companies to use actual box art from Japan and not be ashamed of the anime roots.
That's good. Though I will say, Wicked Phenomenon's cover art.
That's different.
It's still the one Working Designs did use was still really good to look at.
You know what? It's controversial. Some people hate it.
Well, to each their own. But that's pretty much all I got. You can find Magus's channel at youtube.com/MagusX1. You can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Darkscream217. Anything else? Anything else I should cover?
No, we got it.
All right, that's everything. With that, this is Darkscream signing out.
With that, guys, Magus out.
Take care, everybody. We'll hope to see you again next episode.